wanted to just dive deeper on the Bills, just talk about them a little bit more because I think we've kind of treated them as a given. Some of these teams that are rolling over the first half of the season, the Bills, the Eagles, who we're going to talk about, it's almost easy to skip over them just because they're crushing teams or they're playing so well that it's not really worth analyzing. The Bills are worth analyzing right now because they've run into some trouble. So just big picture takeaway. You watched the Bills last week against the Vikings. How are you feeling about where the Bills offense is at right now?
Man, it's a weird thing to say. It's like like you said, it's a given sometimes when you watch this Bills offense. And I think Josh Allen being Josh Allen and being sometime at any time going supernova is one of the most exciting things in sports. I think he's one of the most fun athletes to watch, period. The problem with Josh Allen, I should say the problem, a feature or a bug of Josh Allen is 3 to 4 times a game, he's gonna fuck up. He's going to put the ball in harm's way. He's going to try something. He's going to do too much. That's part of his game. That's what makes him Josh Allen. That's what makes him Professor Chaos. I think in a weird way, and I this Bills offense is what we thought they were in the sense that they are, and this is the analogy I like to use. I tweeted it, spoilers last night, was that I said I look at them as like a 3-point shooting team in basketball. And the fact that they can get hot at any time and they can just run you off the court in one half. And it's just like, holy shit, we're down 4 scores. We're down 3 scores. How can we can't tackle these guys? Oh my God, there goes the ostrich running down the field. But at times they can get cold and they don't have the kind of safety blankets at times to overcome those misses. They don't have sometimes those layups, somebody else to take the load off Josh Allen. What I will say, and it's kind of a weird thing to say, there's actually some signs of what the Bills offenses is doing that they're trying to find answers that's not relying just on Josh Allen being a freak. And I think their run game, they're trying to diversify that. I'll always mention a diversifying run game. I love portfolio diversification. I love this with run games. But the Bills now are using a sixth offensive lineman a lot. They're using Bobby Hart as their extra tight end. They've done this the 5th most snaps in the entire NFL. They've used a 6 offensive lineman, including 24 times over the past 3 weeks. That's a significant amount, including they'll do against the Vikings. They did 11 personnel jumbo with a 6 offensive lineman. So Bobby Hart's the only tight end on the field, had a nice run play and had a nice play action play out of it. But their run plays out of jumbo sets, their rush success rate is 55.6%. To put that in perspective, the Eagles lead the league right now at 49.1%. The Bills normally are 12th in the NFL at 41.2%. So this is a big upgrade for their run game.
Yeah.
And this is just so they don't have to go, hey, Josh Allen, can you run another QB power for us? Hey, Josh, can you run a QB draw for us? And you're like, take the load off this guy. I mean, these hits accumulate. That's why his elbows get banged up. But I do think that this team, also with this Bills offense, this is the last stat I have with this. So they're the second best team by EPA per rush out of jumbo. They're tied for last with the Colts in designed rushes and all other personnel groupings. So they're
actively a bad running team in most situations.
And we talked early in this year, what are the blemishes of this Bills team? And that's the offensive line, the interior offensive line. And you see that show up. Josh Allen can mitigate a lot of these errors, but he only could do so much. And sometimes these matchups, pressure gets to him. The ball has to wave off of it. He has to scramble too early. And again, he can mitigate that, but it shows up with the other facets of their offense. So it's I don't know how to say this. It is what I thought. I do think they're trying to find answers, but it's not always perfect. It's not always perfect. Josh Allen's not going to always make the crazy throw. The ball is going to bounce the other way sometimes.
If you look at the numbers and even going back and watching that entire Vikings game, down to down, the Bills offense is really good, like really, really good. And the problem is some of that is rooted in volatile moments.
Yeah.
So I think I have a couple, there are like 2 or 3 issues that I saw and just thinking about them and rewatching them. There's the couple bad turnovers a game. That is a huge thing to consider. He's throwing in, especially in the red zone, like them turning the ball over in the red zone is a problem. And that stuff is decision making, and that just can't happen. The one was on a 4th down. That kind of is what it is. The Patrick Peterson play, Peterson makes a really nice play on that ball, but still Allen's trying to fit that in a way that probably is unnecessary. So I think that his decision making in sort of the tighter areas of the field is particularly important. Okay. The other things are they came into this season and the guys that they signed along the offensive line, or the moves they made along the offensive line, the way they constructed that position group. They went to sign Roger Saffold, I think in part because Roger Saffold's an ass kicker in the run game. And that's what they needed. They needed to be able to run the ball better and have more physicality. So you have a left guard that isn't a great pass blocker. You have a right tackle who is not a great pass blocker.
Right.
And Ryan Bates is like, fine. This is not an elite offensive line.
Nope.
And when you're up against it and you're trying to figure out how to push yourself across the finish line, and you have expensive pieces, when you go out and get a Von Miller, when you have signed Trey White and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde and Matt Milano and all of these guys to extensions, Stephon Diggs is expensive.
There's always a give and take.
You have to. And Josh Allen's now on his extension.
Yep.
So, and they consciously decided we're going to skimp a little bit on the line because that's an area where Josh can mitigate where we're bad. Yep. And he does. Yep. His ability to just avoid sacks in any situation. He is the best quarterback in the league in paper drop back when pressured only from the pocket. That doesn't even include scrambles. So his ability to just operate within the confines of the pocket under pressure is really, really good. Their bet that they made is correct, but you still have to live with the consequences.
Yes.
So there's still a volatility to how they have to play because he's consistently avoiding pressure. And one of the just downstream effects of that is that occasionally they struggle to play on time as a passing offense.
Yep.
There are so many plays in that Vikings game where they can't do anything against zone coverage within the structure of a play because he's seeing a flash almost immediately after the play starts. So now he's in creation mode instantly.
Yep.
So at times they don't play on schedule on offense unless he's throwing like a deep comeback or something outside the numbers.
Right.
So the Vikings are the perfect sort of defense to take away things over the middle of the field when you're playing zone coverage, but they had nothing. They had absolutely nothing in that game over the middle of the field within the confines of the offense unless the Vikings blitzed.
Yep.
So if you're not going to give them anything there, are they going to struggle to play on time and just within the rhythm of the offense? And I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
So the offensive line concerns and how that affects their ability to play on time, I think those things are real. Whether they can overcome those in the long term, right, I think that's the bigger question. I tend to think the answer is yes. Because if Devin Singletary doesn't fumble at the 25-yard line in this game, the Vikings or the Bills probably win.
We're not talking about this. I know. And that's the other thing too, is that it's like Josh Allen threw a deep hinge. A deep hinge is it's an extended stop route. It's down the field on the outside, and he hit a couple of these. That's a hard way to live. Like that is a hard throw to make, a hard throw to complete. It's the
degree of difficulty is very high.
They are such a high wire act. They shoot 25, 30 foot threes over and over and over, and they hit them. It's like watching the Warriors sometimes. But it's sometimes you go cold. Sometimes you go 1 for 20 from three, and it just looks like crap, or just have these blemishes where you miss 5 in a row in high leverage moments. But I also just want to talk. It's like they're permanently on a heat check. That's kind of how this offense plays. And
he is playing like that right now.
Yeah,
there were a couple moments where he's looking. I can't remember the exact play, but he tried to throw one to the pylon on a line to Gabe Davis when he had a crosser coming over the backside. Yeah. And it's like, you don't need to do that. The problem is that he threw for a touchdown earlier in the game. Yes, that's the concern, is that sometimes it does work.
Yeah. He's the ultimate no. Yeah, baby. Like that. He's that quarterback always, every single play. But the also the other one was what I thought of. He got sacked on this. And I'm trying to remember, it was off the left edge. So I'm trying to remember who got him. But against the Vikings were in a Tampa 2. Eric Kendricks is running down the pipe, and he had McKenzie running down the pipe. And you can see Josh Allen look to the corner, and then all of a sudden realize that he's about to have McKenzie running down the pipe, and you could see him getting ready to launch, and then he gets hit. But I was like, oh, that would have been like a 65-yard bomb, because the other thing, he's throwing it late. The fact that he could do that, his room for error is just it's incredible. Like he could just throw
often throwing it late.
Yes, I know.
The only real plays on time are the ones outside the numbers. It's weird to watch.
Or when he's replacing a blitz. Those are the two things. Yes, that's the other one, because he knows how to read that and hit that. That's the other thing with him, is that early in the year, and don't get me wrong, he's playing incredible. He's still incredible. He's so good. Is my dad, by the way, every time he watches Josh Allen play, he just goes, "Why could I coach this guy?" But every was that early in the year, all the commentators were like, man, Josh Allen's just reading the game like Peyton Manning now. Like I remember Chris Collins were saying that in week 1. And then they showed the like zoomed up view of Josh Allen's eyes, and he's looking in 5 different directions and then finally finding the throw and hitting it late. And I was like, it's a little different, guys. That's his own way of reading the play out. That's not how you really teach it. But the last thing I want to say with this Bills offense and why they're trying to find answers, and sometimes it's not always the right way, but they're trying stuff, is we talked about simulated pressures when the Bills would be in empty, and simulated pressures they'd get gamed up where Josh Allen have to throw hot and throw underneath, and he'd be pressured because he has to deal with a free runner. So against the Vikings, they had kind of a change-up look off of this. And it was pretty cool is they, rather than have the guys slide down, have the tackles, when you got a pressure coming, an off-ball pressure, and you're in a 5-man protection, like an empty, is that you're trying to make it the longest path to the quarterback. So the tackles will squeeze inside to make it the longest path. So sometimes the D end will end up free because the tackle's squeezing in for the linebacker, the off-ball player. So the Vikings brought one of these, and how the Bills adjusted to this was they had Mitch Morse do his half slide, and then once he recognized what the pressure was, he pulled for the blitzer. He came right back around. Mitchell Schwartz and I were messaging each other. He called this like a molly pop. This is there's different words for this. Dual read is the guard tackle version of this, but it's its own version. Bobby Johnson has a clinic on it. He's now the Giants offensive line coach, but it's kind of
he was the Bills offensive line coach.
Yes, exactly. And they did this a couple times last year. Some guys from Cover One that cover the Bills mentioned that to me, is that that's a nice little wrinkle. And so it's one of those things. It's like a sight adjust. It's that you can practice it. And it comes up like 2 or 3 times a year. So it's kind of one of those, it's like, is it worth it? And that's what
value received. Yeah.
Correct. And especially with limited practice time, all that stuff. So that's what frustrates me sometimes with the Bills offense is they'll do those things. It's like, yes, you found an answer, but there's better ways to do that. In that look, there's ways they could have full slid based on the safety look, based on everything, and wadded up the protection or wadded up the blitz. It'd been fine. It'd been protected, but they don't look for those answers. Sometimes they always look for the hard answers or the cool, like try to be like the cool kids club with some of their answers. So I'll say it's like they find the answer, but sometimes it's not maybe the most straight line one. And sometimes I want them to take the straight line one.